Clinton McCurbin was a young man living in Wolverhampton, England. He worked as a welder. On February 20th, 1987, his life was tragically cut short. He was just 23 years old. McCurbin was inside a Next clothing store in Wolverhampton's town centre. Security personnel suspected him of using a stolen bank card. They apprehended him and called the police. What followed was a confrontation that ended in McCurbin's death. Witnesses described a chaotic scene as police officers attempted to restrain McCurbin. They alleged excessive force was used. Some claimed officers used a neon neck restraint, a tactic that would gain grim notoriety decades later. Others said a headlock was employed. McCurbin died at the scene. The official cause of death was asphyxia consistent with restraint. His death sent shockwaves through Wolverhampton and beyond, igniting accusations of police brutality and racism. This was not simply an isolated incident. It was a death that reflected deep-seated tensions between the police and the black community. The McCurbin family was devastated. They insisted that Clinton's death was a direct result of the police's excessive and unreasonable force. They began a long and arduous fight for justice. Their grief was compounded by the lack of accountability for the officers involved. The officers, Constables Michael Hobday and Neil Thomas, were placed on temporary leave following the incident. However, they were later reinstated, adding to the family's outrage and sense of injustice. The death of Clinton McCurbin sparked immediate outrage and unrest in Wolverhampton. For 2 days following the incident, disturbances erupted across the town. Protesters clashed with police, fueled by anger and grief over McCurbin's death. More than 30 people were arrested and several police officers sustained injuries. The unrest highlighted the raw emotions and deep-seated tensions that existed between the police and the black community. McCurbin's death resonated far beyond Wolverhampton. A national march against police violence was planned for March 7, 1987 in Wolverhampton. The planned march, however, was met with a wave of fear and anxiety. Local residents were advised to avoid the town centre. Shops boarded up their windows, fearing potential looting or vandalism. Faith leaders, caught in the crosshairs of fear and the desire for justice, urged their congregations to stay away from the march. The local newspaper, the Express and Star, ran a front-page headline warning of potential violence. The atmosphere was tense, highlighting the palpable fear that gripped the town in the wake of McCurbin's death and the planned protest. The fear surrounding the march was not unfounded. It reflected a broader societal concern about public disorder and the potential for peaceful protests to escalate into violence. This fear, however, also underscored the deep-seated racial tensions that McCurbin's death had exposed. The black community felt targeted and misunderstood, their grievances dismissed as a threat to public order. The McCurbin family, determined to get justice for Clinton, challenged the official narrative surrounding his death. An inquest into McCurbin's death returned a verdict of misadventure. This verdict, which implied no direct blame for the police officers involved, was a bitter blow to the family. They refused to accept that Clinton's death was simply an unfortunate accident. The family challenged the inquest's verdict in the High Court, arguing that the police's use of force was excessive and the primary cause of Clinton's death. Their legal battle was arduous and emotionally draining. However, despite their best efforts, the High Court upheld the original verdict. The family's fight for justice had been dealt a significant setback. Despite the legal setbacks, Clinton McCurbin's death was not in vain. It sparked a national conversation about police brutality, particularly against black people. The case highlighted the urgent need for police reforms to address issues of racial bias, excessive force, and accountability. In the wake of the incident, West Midlands Police implemented some changes within the force. They introduced new restraint techniques, ostensibly aimed at preventing future deaths in custody. However, for many, these reforms felt insufficient, a mere band-aid on a deep-seated wound. The death of Clinton McCurbin remains a deeply painful and unresolved chapter in the fight for racial justice in Britain. Despite the passage of time, the questions surrounding his death linger. The lack of a clear and definitive answer about what transpired in that next store continues to haunt his family and the community. McCurbin's case, though decades old, continues to resonate in the present day. It serves as a stark reminder of the ongoing struggle against systemic racism and police brutality. The black community continues to face disproportionate targeting, harassment and violence at the hands of law enforcement. Clinton McCurbin's story, though tragic, has become a catalyst for change. His death, captured in documentaries like The Bandung File and immortalized in Timothy Donkor's painting The Death of Clinton McCurbin, serves as a powerful reminder of the human cost of injustice. The fight for justice for Clinton McCurbin is not over. It is a fight for accountability, for transparency, and for a future where black lives are not tragically cut short. It is a fight for a world where every individual is treated with dignity and respect regardless of the color of their skin.